Welcome to the Vibrant You Health Show with your host, Blake Bars. At Nature's Pantry, our mission is to lead you to vibrant health through the best nutrition, supplementation, service, expertise, and healthy choices. In this show, we aren't interested in fads or quick fixes. Rather, we want to get into the holistic fundamentals of health. We want to answer questions like, what are the underlying causes to health issues, and what solutions can help lead us to vibrant health? You can watch every episode and listen to the podcast by visiting our website at naturespantry.life. The Vibrant You Health Show is brought to you by Terry Naturally Vitamins and Solar Ray Vitamins. At Nature's Pantry, we strive to work only with companies that maintain the highest standards for quality and efficacy. Terry Naturally and Solar Ray are two of the absolute best.
3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 56 of the Vibrant You Health Show. I am so excited to have my special guest today, clinical nutritionist Burt Goulding, and the founder of Positive Power Nutrition. Thanks so much for joining me today, Burt.
Oh, it's fun to be here.
So we're going to talk today about a couple really fun and exciting and powerful health tools. Now, before we get into it, could you just tell me just a little bit about how you got into starting a supplement company and nutrition?
Yes, I had worked with a couple of other pioneers in the health supplement space. And really what got me going was I had a couple of elderly friends where I lived, and they both had severe diabetes. And I remember at the time just praying and just saying, there has to be some way to help people deal with this. I mean, I had one friend who was in a wheelchair, and the doctor took off his left foot because of diabetes, and then about a year later took off his right foot, and then it was the left leg up to the knee, and the other friend, he had this terrible itching during the night while he was asleep that he would scratch his skin so badly he was pulling the skin off of his arms. And so, kind of like had to have socks on his hands, kind of like a newborn baby. And so I just thought there has to be some way to do it. And so as I went back to school and started doing my master level studies in nutrition, it was wonderful, but it turns out that as I started practicing, that's like the last part of your course is like, okay, let's set up your practice here as a nutritionist, that I found out that most of the things that I had learned as far as book learning just didn't hold up in real life. I would try that with people, you'd say, oh, well, it looks to me like you need this supplement and this mineral and that, and then it just didn't. So we had this amazing machine that hooks into a computer. It's like $20,000. We have two of those, and it's called BioMeridian. And so it's electrodermal screening. And as I started to find out what really worked, that's how we really got started. And with the supplements, it's now all focused on how much electrical potential, how much energy is in the supplements, because that tells you indisputably whether it comes from a food source, because a lot of people can sign all kinds of declarations and affidavits and certificate of analysis that, it came from a food source, and they're not telling you the truth. They're just lying. So we found out that one way to do that is to test the subtle energy level. And so we've been doing that. This is probably more detailed than you wanted, but that's how I got started.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
That's quite fascinating. Very cool. Well, I know you've focused quite a bit of time on pH balance and why that's important for the body. Could you talk a little bit about how you got into that particular focus?
Yes, it was probably a very small thing, less than a week of my studies. I went to American Health Science University. They've graduated the most nutritionists in the country. They're now out of business as an educational institution because the pharmaceutical companies directly targeted them and went after them and drove them into bankruptcy. But before that, 50,000 nutritionists that had it. They have you choose, and so 1 week was about pH balance, and then they say, okay, what do you want to specialize in? And I just felt drawn to that. And there's over 230 different books written on pH balance in humans. And we've written our own guide, which has outsold all of them combined. It's called Are You Ready for the Truth on pH Balancing? So that's how I got into it. And, what we found is that if you're pH balanced, and this means testing a saliva test, because the urine test only gives you like a 2% view of your body. But if you want to get a 56% view as to what your pH balance is in your body, you need to have a fasting saliva test. So if a person is balanced, 90% of all disease that's ever been given a name, ever been cataloged, 90% of all disease will clear up in 7 months or less. So pH balancing, out of the 4 switches or levers that you can pull as far as your health, that's the most powerful we've found of anything.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard, and you talked already about cellular energy production and pH balance, and I've heard it said that if you can have an alkaline environment, or that ideal pH level between 7.1 and 7.5, and you can have an abundance of cellular energy, you can heal virtually any disease.
Almost all. I mean, there are some things that just won't get completely better if your pH balanced. One of those would be Alzheimer's. That one relies out of the 4 things, you've got pH balancing handles 90%. Mineral balancing will bring you up to 95%, but you want to start with pH balancing first, because then your body is starting with the biggest lever that you can pull.
Right.
And then comes hormonal balancing, brings you up to 98%, and to get up to 100%, it's energy balancing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, well, what is energy balancing? Well, almost everybody does something, whether it's massage therapy or acupuncture or chiropractic. They do something to increase the energy flow in the body. They just may not think of it that way, but you get up to 100%. So for Alzheimer's, it's mineral balancing and energy balancing together in a specific protocol. And there are a couple of scientists working out of Michigan and Illinois that are able to help families, even if their family member's been in a Alzheimer's care facility for 10 or 15 or 20 years. Within 7 months, they can get that person so that they remember all of their family members. They can go home and live a normal life. So there really isn't anything we found so far that doesn't respond to some combination of those 4 levers.
Good. And I should clarify, I think, legally, I'm not able to say, heal a disease or a specific disease, or specifically that a specific supplement can. But we certainly can talk about how certain things can support the body's natural systems. And I think it's good to qualify. I'm not a doctor. I'm not making any claims that, for healing and you should always talk to your doctor about health concerns. Furthermore, on a side note, as a person of faith, I believe we live in a fallen world, and maybe in a pre-fallen state, we had perfect pH balance and perfect cellular energy production. But in my view, there's no cure for sin and death, only Jesus. And so I just want to qualify that, because we may be able to improve our quality of life, and we certainly should strive to be stewards of the gifts of our bodies and our lives that we've been given, but and optimize those things so that we can love and serve well. But for me, I got to look to my faith for eternal life and not things in this world.
I agree. 100%.
But as far as optimizing how we feel and our health and our energy levels and our pH, Talk to me a little bit about why pH is important and what results. Is it right that most of us are too acidic? Is that typically where we fall?
Yes. Out of all the adolescents and adults in the United States, 94% when they test are in the too acidic. Anything below 7. So the pH scale goes from 0 to 14, roughly. I say that because we've actually discovered in our working with supplements and making supplements that there's actually a negative pH. It can go below 0, but anything below 7 is pH is really a measure of electricity in the body. So everything that's below 7 is acidic. So even at 6.9, I mean, there are so many books where they come in and they tell you, the healthy range is like from 6.5 to 7.5. And if you're testing urine for your pH, then yeah, it's actually the healthy for urine is 6.0 to 6.9. You don't want ever to be above 7. And a lot of people work really hard to try to get their urine above 7. And if they're successful and get it into the alkaline range, it can lead to kidney failure. So you don't want to do that. But with saliva, you're testing just, it's like an oil dipstick in your car. If you have a regular, gasoline car, you've got, you're with your saliva, you go ahead and first thing in the morning when you wake up, the proper way to test is you would start salivating. Just talking about it, I'm starting to salivate right now, but you start salivating and then you drill that saliva into a little plastic party spoon or picnic spoon. And reason is if you put it in a metal spoon, the metal is going to change the electricity or the pH value. And so what you do is you just do that once a week. In less than 5 minutes, you can put the saliva in a spoon. You can take a laboratory grade or clinical grade pH test strip, and you put it in the saliva. You want to have at least a half spoonful of saliva. And you move that back and forth for about 30 seconds. You match the color to the chart, and then you want to write it down immediately. It's so funny, we think, I can remember what it is, but you start thinking of other things, and then the pH test strip changes colors and goes back to neutral because, as it dries out. So what you want to do is first thing in the morning, because it has to be at least 3 hours after your last food or beverage, anything except water. With water, you only have to wait 5 minutes to get a valid test.
Okay.
So if you wake up in the morning and you say, my mouth is dry in the morning, that's okay. Go have just some plain purified or distilled water, your good drinking water. Wait 5 or 10 minutes and then go ahead and create the saliva and test once a week, not every day.
Okay. Do you just kind of do the same day every week, I would assume?
Yeah, our family, my wife and I have been testing our pH every Sunday because, Sunday's a special day for us. So we do that in the morning. And when all of our children were at home, we have been blessed with 10 children. They're all grown adults right now. But at the time, there would always be somebody assigned on Sunday morning when everybody come downstairs to have breakfast in the kitchen. One of my younger daughters would be there with the spoons and the test strips and handing them out to people saying, no, before you have breakfast here, let's do it. And we would chart it. And what was amazing is that it's not that difficult to get in the pH range. Used to be that 99% of all babies when they were born on birth had perfectly balanced pH, healthy pH. Now it's not quite like that. It's probably only 60 or 70% of newborns. It's really gone downhill, but
Wow.
It used to be that's just the way we were created. We would have pH balance. So, we had 2 daughters that, we were testing weekly. And if you're 13 weeks in a row that you're always in the thing, you only have to test once a month. So we would do it on the first Sunday of the month. And so, everybody come down and they would do it. And 2 of my daughters they were in the acidic range. And I just thought, wait a second, I haven't seen that in like 6 or 7 months. You've been balanced a long time. And so I just kind of had this funny look, and they might have thought, Dad's upset or something, because I was staring at this thing like, how is this possible? And so the first daughter said, well, something I need to confess. About midnight, when everybody's asleep, I get up and I come down and have a bowl of ice cream with fudge on it. And she'd been doing this for, I guess, enough days that it showed up on the pH test. She was in the acid range from that acidic. And then the other daughter said, yeah, me too. And then they looked at each other and they go, I've never seen you. I've never seen you. So they never ran into each other. But
Oh.
pH testing is so important because it will pick up on things way before that. We never worried as parents that we were going to have some kind of terrible, terminal disease or something show up with our kids, because there's a long, long, long warning period if you're testing your pH on a regular basis.
Wow, that's really cool. I like that. So now tell me, what if we're too acidic for a long time, what are some of the symptoms we might expect, or what are some of the problems that begin to happen in the body? And I know it's 90% of issues, right?
Yeah, it is. For example, diabetes. I've never had, as a clinical nutritionist, I've worked with over 5,000 doctors' patients. So not being a doctor myself, is still get to the point that either the doctor refer them, or you'd say, well, I can't really do anything, go find a nutritionist. So with 5,000 doctor patients over the last 19 years, it turns out that I've never had one person that has gotten pH balanced that didn't have all of their symptoms of diabetes completely clear up in 7 months or less. We're talking
Type 2.
type 2 and type 1. We're talking about people that they started using a supplement that our company makes called Cell Power. And what it does is that it helps support the body to get completely pH balanced and stay there. It's not a temporary, pushing into a balanced range, and then if you stop taking it, you're right back into an acidic range. So with this, I've had people with type 1 that within 4 or 5 weeks had to reduce their 3 insulin shots a day down to 1. Now, of course, they counsel with their doctor. This is not something you do on your own.
Right.
But, within one of them, within 5 months, was off all insulin shots. So when I'm doing a class or seminar, I pause at this point and I say, okay, so if they're not doing any insulin shots at all, where are they getting their insulin? Usually there's a period of silence, and then somebody says, their pancreas? I go, yeah, their pancreas. So when you are pH balanced, it allows the cell membranes to open up naturally, which means that all of those beta cells that people figure are damaged or are broken or dead or whatever, not really. They've been making insulin this whole time, but the cell membrane has been closed down. So it's been making the insulin, but it can't put it into the bloodstream, so it means it doesn't go to the rest of the body. And that's why you have to take insulin shots, is the cell membrane's closed. Once you get pH balanced, that membrane opens, selectively, but it opens so that all of the good things can get into the cell. That would be water, oxygen, fuel, nutrients, messenger hormones like insulin. All those things can get in. Now, type 2 is where the target cells are closed down. So the insulin's in the blood, it gets right up to that cell, but it won't open up to the insulin. So that's type 2. Type 1 is that the source cell is not open and it can't put it out there. Once we discovered these kinds of things, this is not what they taught in college for nutrition, but it's things that we started seeing with individuals.
Well, I'm very fascinated by this because my daughter's type 1 diabetic. She's
we're talking, if you can get her into the pH balance range, which you can, it's very doable. Again, in less than 7 months, a person will be off. Now, the more difficult one is if somebody's on an insulin pump, and I know they started doing those for convenience so that you don't have to do the shot, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you're not allowing the body to kind of get there on its own, unless you can have your doctor dial down the pump to, lower settings. But it is very exciting. You can do something with your daughter. I have grandparents tell me all the time that, oh, my grandchild has this. And I go, that's going to be tough. As a grandparent, you have like 0%
Right.
uh, ability to help somebody get things naturally done. So,
Yeah, good luck forcing anything, right?
yeah.
The person's got to be wanting to do that themselves, or the parent. Um, so okay, well that's cool, and maybe we could, maybe I can talk to you more about that later.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me, what are the things that cause our bodies to be too acidic today?
Well, more than anything else, I talked about we put out a booklet that we've printed and distributed and sold 1.7 million copies now. And that are you ready for the truth on pH balance? And it's only 4 pages long. It's 1,000 pages on information, 1,000 pages on balancing the pH condensed down into 4 easy to read pages. And it's only $2 for this guide.
Sounds like my kind of book.
Well, it's because you need to read it 3 different times in the first week because you have so much programming. I mean, each one of us has so much programming that we have to overcome. So the things that cause the acidity is it comes down to 7 things that will push us into the acidic range. Okay. The worst on a scale of, not a pH scale, but on a scale of acid forming, I guess, capability. Coffee is the coffee bean. So it doesn't matter if it's decaf or caffeinated. If the coffee bean itself is a 10 on the scale of 0 to 10, it only takes about a half a cup to push somebody into the acidic range.
Darn
For
it.
most people. I have found 2 people in the country that can drink a cup a day and they don't go acidic, but that's rare. And it's because it's all 7 things. The second would be tobacco in any form. And that's really what causes the cancer because acidity is the food that cancer eats. We've always been told that cancer eats sugar, but it doesn't. I've, got up and be able to show people and say, look, I'm going to put this microscope here and project it up on the screen. And you can see that it's not really sugar, but after the sugar's been like in a petri dish with some cancer cells, if you put the drops of glucose into the petri dish and all of the cancer cells move across the dish through the liquid, go right for it. It's like throwing a pork chop over the fence where there's a big dog and there you hear, oh, so you've got that kind of a thing going on. So it's tobacco. Yeah, a lot of people will get lung cancer or some other kind of cancer if they've been smoking for 20, 25, 30 years. They know that there's that chance, but it takes a while. But if you're chewing tobacco, it only takes less than 12 months to end up with cancer of the mouth and the throat and the tongue and everything else. And it's the acidity. So that's second. That's about a 9 out of 10. Third would be alcohol in any form. I remember when I was back doing my nutrition courses in college, that they have these little, tidbits to kind of make it fun. It would be like, here's something that's related to nutrition, and all of them were the myths. And one of the big myths is that, hey, it would be great to drink a little bit of red wine with your dinner because of help with digestion. And they said, well, you already know who sponsored that, but they said it's absolutely the opposite. As soon as you have any alcohol at all, even in little red wine, it will shut down the digestive process completely within just minutes. So that would be like an 8 on the scale. 5 would be black tea or Earl Grey tea or white tea, anything that has tannic acid in it, because tannic acid is what's used for tanning leather. So as you're drinking that, what do you think happens to the inside of your small intestine and the inside of your large intestine? The more you drink it, the more it destroys the little villi, the little fingers that are sticking out there to improve your absorption. So that's a 5 on the scale. It would take 2 cups of tea to do as much acid-forming damage as 1 cup of coffee. Then you've got, below that, you have sugar, especially the fake sugars like the GMO high fructose corn syrup, the sucralose, all of the weird things, but even cane sugar. If you go to the Discover channel or go online to the internet for Discover and put down, I want to watch the video on how you process white sugar. I remember watching it the first time and I said, oh my goodness, no wonder it's so damaging to you. It's not just the sugar itself, it's the fact that they add heavy metals into it over and over again, 8 different times during the process. It turns it kind of dark and then you have to bleach it white again and then you add more. So it's just filled with heavy metals.
From the manufacturing equipment?
Well, yeah, not that you have to have it for sugar, but how is sugar sold? By the pound.
Right. Oh my! So they're adding it?
So you're putting in the lead and the mercury and all this stuff so that, if you ever go to the store and you go, when I was a kid, I think the 5-pound bag of sugar was bigger than it is now. Because there's something by the pound, it's like a bag that's 20, 30% smaller. So you've got that as a problem. And then you have the 7th thing, which hopefully I've mentioned 6 so far. Oh no,
5.
Soda, carbonated beverages, any kind of carbonated. I have people say, well, I just drink club soda. Well, I'm sorry. Club soda is a 100% carbonic acid. It's an acid that your body's trying to get rid of because it'll kill you eventually. So I have people that are drinking, colas or whatever kind of soft drink that they're into, and they'll drink like 2 liters a day every day. And what they'll end up with is severe psoriasis that will cover 50, 60% of their skin. They can hardly go to work. They can hardly
Body's trying to detox that out. Yeah. What about like a natural carbonated, like a kombucha or something like that?
Yeah, if no carbon dioxide has been added to make it carbonated, then you're okay. There's even a couple of waters that are naturally carbonated out of Europe, but again, your body can more easily fight off that carbonic acid, which is just acidifying you. And then the 7th one is actually so bad that it's worse than the coffee bean. The coffee bean is 10 out of a scale of 10. Bottled up unresolved stress comes in at 20 to 30. I mean, it could be 2 to 3 times worse. So when I mentioned a couple of people that were able to have a cup of coffee a day and not acidify them, it's because they had a stress-free life. I don't know anybody personally that has a stress-free life, but these people were saying, look, I'm retired. I don't have any financial concerns. I'm far away from family. I don't have any family concerns, to get me all stressed out and riled up. Well, so that's by far the worst. And the best thing you can do for that is start doing the deep breathing, the yoga breathing, morning and evening. And I've actually seen a person go from, say, 6.5, which is acidic on their saliva. Then they'll do 10 minutes of deep breathing. And then I say, well, just for fun, let's test your saliva pH again. And it's already become more alkaline.
Wow. Or more oxygen. The body's more oxygenated too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what would you say again is the ideal pH for the human body?
For the healing range is 7.1 to 7.5 because it's like a light switch. At 7.0, it's neutral. You're not really healing, but you're also not getting worse. At 7.1 on your fasting saliva test, you're in the range already. The middle of that range would be like 7.25, but some people are like, I can always tell when I'm dealing with perfectionists, which means they have to do a lot more deep breathing because they get stressed out over everything, is when they say, no, I have to be 7.25. I go, no, you don't really have to. It's 7.1 to 7.5. Now, if you're too alkaline at 7.6 and higher, the switch turns off as far as healing, and electrically you're not able to get the cells to repair.
So not very many people fall there.
No, out of the 100%, we've got 94% are too acidic in the U.S. 2%, well, 1.5 to 2% are too alkaline, which is even more dangerous. You're more likely to die from being too alkaline.
Oh, wow.
And then you've got 4% that are in the healing range and they just are healthy.
Wow.
I mean, all the time. It doesn't mean they don't get a cold, but I mean, they're
Right.
just healthy. Their body is just really solid.
Well, and to some extent, you need to be, at some point, there's certain viruses and certain colds that your body kind of needs to be exposed to so that your immune system can be strong and be prepared to deal with those things in the future. Or,
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about cell power, how cell power helps balance the pH, and then how long that typically takes while taking cell power.
The length of time is if you're doing 6 servings a day as an adult, if you're a teen or a child, then of course you would have to take less, you dial that down, but it's 6 servings a day, and a serving is just 4 drops of the concentrate in a tall glass, a 16-ounce glass of purified or distilled water. And the time it takes you to get pH balanced is 4 to 10 weeks. Now, I've had people doing it as little as 2 weeks, but that's so much not the norm that, don't expect that. Don't say, I didn't get there in 2 weeks. It's 4 to 10 weeks. Now, how Cell Power does that is that Cell Power is a supplement that was discovered in 1949. So this is the 75th year of Cell Power. So it's kind of a big deal for us, a big celebration. And it captures solar energy during the process. It takes, right now it's taking 1 year and 7 months to make one batch. So what we're working on now, we want to be shipping for almost 2 years from now.
Wow.
But what it does is that it has solar energy captured in the liquid so that when you put 4 drops in 16 ounces of distilled water, purified water, that 4 drops, it only takes about 10 seconds for it to bring the entire 16 ounces of water up to the same electrical energy that those 4 drops had. And it does this by starting a process of molecular fission, which is breaking down the H2O molecule. So it splits that apart. So you have 2 hydrogen ions and 2 hydrogen ions and 1 oxygen ion. So the 1 oxygen ion, it has to be combined with another one. So if you split 2 water molecules, you end up with a stabilized, breathable O2 oxygen. And you have these 4 hydrogen ions, which are used by your immune system. What that does is when you have the building blocks, when you have the oxygen and the hydrogen split apart from each other, it allows your body to naturally pH balance. That if you're too alkaline, it will help in the same 4 to 10 weeks. It'll help bring you down, say, from 7.8 down into that healing range of 7.1 to 7.5. And if you're too acidic, like 94% of the population, then it'll help you come up from 6 or 5.5 or 6.5, all the way up. Now, the pH scale is logarithmic. That means that if you're at 7.25, you have all of the acid you're supposed to have, which is almost 50% of your saliva would be acid, right? At 7.0, it'd be 50%, so it's a little bit less. And you have all of the alkalinity that you need. Okay, now at 6.25, just 1 point down, it's like earthquakes. The Richter scale, a lot of people are saying, oh, in California, you just had a 7.0 last week. And I said, yeah, but 7.3 would be 3 times stronger than a 7.0. So with pH, it's the same kind of thing. At 6.25, which a lot of people are, when they first test, that means they have 10 times as much acid in their body than what's healthy.
At 6.3?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, well, we tested the other day. I'm going to retest our team here at Nature's Pantry because we tested in the middle of the day, and now I learned that we need to do it first thing in the morning. So we're all going to test, and then we're going to get on a protocol and we'll report about how we do.
Well, that's wonderful. That's really good. If people would just stick with it, I don't know if for whatever reason they're like, oh, I got pH balance and I didn't really notice. And I said, well, it may take you up to 7 months to have, type 1 diabetes disappear. But what happens a lot faster is it only takes 2.5 months of being pH balanced and fibromyalgia disappears. That's a huge thing. I was working with an elderly lady in our church, and she said, I've had this fibromyalgia, and she was just angry. So she definitely need to work on the stress too and that deep breathing. But she was really angry because she goes, I've been suffering for like 22 years. When I first told the doctor about it, they didn't even know what fibromyalgia was. And he said that it's all in my mind, that I was just making it up. But she went ahead and said, I'm going to do the protocol with the cell power to help me get pH balanced. And when she did it, and 2.5 months later, she goes, it's completely gone. And most people are just grateful. But instead of grateful, she was just angry. She was just, wanted to yell and scream and say, why have I suffered this terrible, awful pain for over 20 years when it only took 2 months to get it cleared up? So osteoporosis, arthritis, which are two sides of the same coin. If somebody has osteoporosis, they have some level of arthritis, even if they're not feeling it yet. Or if they know they have arthritis, they're going to have osteoporosis because it's calcium being not in the bone, but being in the joints. But those kinds of things, when you get pH balance, just clear up very quickly. There's about 13,000 things that will clear up once you're pH balanced.
And why? So the doctors just aren't taught about this? I mean, because it's well documented.
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's a book from a PhD doctor, so not a medical doctor, but Dr. Robert Young wrote a book called The pH Miracle for Diabetes. Just absolutely amazing because he was working in a chain of hospitals in Houston, Texas, and the doctors were working with his program to try to get people pH balanced. And when they got balanced, all these things cleared up. They said, oh my goodness, on this chart, it's like not one thing was gone. Dozens of things were gone. So some doctors know about it, others not really. I mean, whenever I was doing a television program out in Hollywood, probably 15 years ago about pH balance. And it was going out to 10 countries in the U.S., and it was a half-hour show. And when it got to the point where we were talking about the fact that 90% of all disease will clear up and at least not be evident as soon as you get pH balanced, right after that, we found out that almost every manufacturer, I would say 99% of all manufacturers of pH test strips in the world were silently bought up. Everyone was fired and they closed the doors. Because you have this tremendous $5 trillion, $10 trillion medical industry that if 90% of disease cleared up, you would see empty hospitals everywhere. They would just be boarding them up. So it's so powerful that, on the one hand, you have people that want to get better naturally, but they don't necessarily believe it. It's like, prove it to me first before I try it. So no, I can't prove it to you before you try it, but you can try it and there's no downside. And then and then you've got on the other side, people that are just scared, doctors that just graduated, they have 500,000 in student loans and they're thinking, oh no, what if all these diseases gets cured before I even work long enough to pay off my loans? So that's kind of what we're facing. Is that, yes, people can get better. I mean, as soon as you get pH balanced, all cancers go into remission within 48 hours. Within 48 hours.
Well, I would also say that as far as our habits in our country, including my own, with my coffee in the morning, I am not exactly setting myself up for success. And, you listed those top few things that are the worst: coffee, alcohol, sugar, you know, carbonated beverages, bottled up stress. I mean, I don't know very many people who don't have most, if not all of those things in their current life. And so, I would assume you, along with a cell power that can assist body's natural pH, some of these other diet and lifestyle things are going to need to be cleaned up in the process as well.
Yes, but you're absolutely right, Blake. But in the 4-page guide, the one that sells for $2, it gives you a 3-step protocol. So what that means is the front page is just some general information. It has a bibliography where it talks about the books and the websites and things where you can learn more about it. But 3-step protocol. The first step is to test your saliva pH once a week, every week. Anybody can do that. Right. And start writing it down. And they're like, well, I don't have any cell power. That's okay. Start testing now. Yeah. Because when you get it, step number 2 is use a supplement that can help assist the body in a major way, like cell power. I don't know of anything else. I always look for a backup because, what if I don't have any cell power with me, but I'm out someplace in the country, what would I grab? But number 2 is to, take something that helps assist you do it. And then the third step of the protocol is what you just said, is making the lifestyle changes. Now, making those lifestyle changes as to what things you're avoiding, that's just so that you can, not have to do the 6 servings of cell power every day, and your body can just manage it on its own. Once you're in that healing range of 7.1 to 7.5 on the pH scale, your body wants to stay there. For my wife and I, we got balanced for the first time 18 years ago. That's when we had just started with all the kids and with us as adults testing once a week on Sunday. But in that 18 years, some of the time we've been doing it once a month because we were just on a roll. But we've only been out of the healing range 4 weeks in 18 years. And wow, that's even during months at a time where we may not take the cell power because we were taking super silica or other things that we were focusing on.
So you're saying I can pH balance with coffee?
No, what I'm saying is pretty much 0 people can get pH balance if they're still drinking coffee.
Really? But
once you get pH balance, then you can experiment. You're still doing the pH test every week or every month if you've been, long time in the balanced range. But then I've had people say, yeah, I tried a half cup of coffee, and then when I tested the next week, I was out of the healing range. I was in the acidic range. Others that said, well, I could do a half cup, but when I tried a 1 cup, I couldn't do it. Now, of course, we're talking about an 8-ounce cup. Now most people, if they buy their coffee out and spend a lot of money on it, they're getting some jumbo Java, whatever thing that's already at 20, 30, 35 ounces. So you can imagine what that does. So, with right now, one of the things that Bobby Kennedy, as he's trying to get the government to help support people getting healthy again, is that he's saying, we were the 17th in the 1970s. In 1972, the United States was the healthiest country on earth. We had the longest lifespan. We were just the healthiest. 1972. Then about the year 2000, we were the 17th healthiest in the world for women and the 18th healthiest for men. And now the U.S. is dead last.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just, you're looking at it and saying, I can't believe it. I mean, and if you go back before the 1970s, we were still the healthiest for like 20 or 30 years since the beginning of when they were measuring who's the healthiest in the world.
Wow.
That's part of how we got in this crazy nightmare of cholesterol testing and worrying about our cholesterol, is that the one thing were trying to figure out is why are Americans the healthiest? So in 1972, when they were doing it, they went through and they go, really, the only thing we can see is that Americans have higher cholesterol than the rest of the world. And the countries that have the lowest cholesterol scores have the earliest death rates or earliest age to die. And it was because they didn't have enough cholesterol to make hormones. They didn't have enough cholesterol to keep the cell membranes integral. In 1972, we were the healthiest in the world. The average healthy thing on the lab report for the doctor is if you had 350 total cholesterol, the doctor would say, that's like perfect. Right on the lab report, it would say, 350 is the goal.
Hey, it's Nicole Haggerty, your holistic health and fitness coach. If you want to improve your health and life and get lasting results, you have to be the change you want to see. Let me help you be that change. Find me at NicoleHaggerty.com.
Hey, Eastern Oregon. My name is Justin Hernandez. I specialize in sports performance training for middle school, high school, and college athletes. My program goal is to optimize an athlete's potential on all playing surfaces. The Breakfast Club motto is creating elite athletes, but even better leaders.
This is Summer Steele of Body Sayorsa. I am a licensed massage therapist and certified personal trainer. I work with bodies of all shapes, sizes, and abilities to help them live a fuller and freer life. Connect with me on Instagram and Facebook under Body Sayorsa, Body Saorsa, or contact me at 541-786-5245.
My name is Blake Bars, and I'm General Manager of Nature's Pantry here in La Grande. I had a terribly unhealthy lifestyle when I started working here. I just didn't know how simple and powerful healthy habits could be. Now I love being able to lead others to vibrant health here at the store, through the health show, and in the health challenges we host twice per year. Learn more at naturespantry.life.
Hey friends, Lacey here with Wild Holistic Nutrition and Fitness. As a certified personal trainer and holistic nutritionist with 17 years of experience, I'm passionate about guiding others in their journey to wellness. I work in the areas of sports performance, group and individual fitness, personal training, behavioral and nutritional coaching, and gut biodome health and assessment. I'd love to help you feel good so that you can thrive and meet the purpose you were made for.
Tim James here, founder of ChemicalFreeBody.com and host of the Health Hero Show. After regaining my own health and having massive gut issues and surgery, I'm on a mission to help others do the same. If you're ready to make your health a priority, lose that weight, increase your energy, and just wake up and feel good, you can reach me at ChemicalFreeBody.com.
And if you were at like 380 or 390 total cholesterol, the doctors say, well, let's just monitor that and see when you come in, next year and see how that's doing. No big deal. But if you were down to 250 total cholesterol, he would say, I might call over to the emergency right now. I need you to get in your car and drive over there and have them try to figure out what's going on, why your cholesterol is down to 250. And of course, now they're pushing to try to get people to 190 total cholesterol, which is just crazy. So, when you look at what good health really is, you just, why the change? They didn't do it immediately. You couldn't go in 1973 and say, oh, now we're looking for 190. So about every 2 years, they would drop it by 10 points, By 75, it was 340. It was the goal, not 350. And they kept doing that for so many years that they finally got it into a crazy range. So, cell power help with pH balancing, but you got to be careful because every time they create a new medication that they want to sell, they have to create an enemy. So if you created a statin drug and really the only thing it does is it damages your liver, so that your liver, which provides 90% of your cholesterol in your body, is made by your liver. So it damages the liver. But it was really hard. It's like, how do we advertise and say, hey, you want to have the weakest liver of everybody in your neighborhood? Go ahead and ask your doctor for this drug. So they couldn't do that. So instead they had to come in and say bad cholesterol and good cholesterol and all these crazy things.
Goodness. I am a little bit speechless. I have heard that the cholesterol levels got healthy levels were lowered and lowered after statin drugs were invented.
Yep.
So healthy started to look a little different. That's crazy. Okay, well, we could talk a long time about that, but I know we don't have a ton of time left, and I really want to touch on super silica, but could you just maybe real briefly talk about, this might not be brief, how does cell power support the immune system? How does it support nutrient absorption? How does it increase available oxygen at the cellular level? I guess you already touched on that a little bit because and then how does it improve athletic recovery?
Okay. Cell power, out of all of the many different supplements that say we provide oxygenation, this will help you get more oxygen in your body, the only one that actually tests that it does is cell power. So, I mean, it's one of those crazy things that there's like, I don't know, 200 different companies that make something that says, oh, these are oxygen drops. Oh, these are whatever drops. And they're little drops you put in your water, but nothing happens. You can test it yourself. If you have a fingertip pulse oximeter, right, which every family should have had one from the time of COVID forward. But you put that on the end of your finger, and you're supposed to be 99 or 98 on the oxygen reading, because it's actually reading how much oxygen is in the blood that reaches your extremities, your fingertips. Well, if you're down like at 92 or 91, that's so low that that's where a doctor would prescribe one of those little green oxygen tanks on wheels that you go around with a mask over your face. So I've had people that will test at 72 and 71. They don't have an oxygen tank. They don't even realize how bad that is. I mean, if you're 8 points low on your body, that means you are 40% low in your brain. Your brain is now operating only 60% of the oxygen for a brain to function correctly.
Wow.
Cell power, if you go ahead and a person will test and say they're at 91, they'll put 4 drops in a 16-ounce glass of distilled water. They'll sip that or whatever over the next 10 minutes. And then they'll come back in the store. A lot of health food stores are helping people test. They'll have the little fingertip pulse oximeter. The person tests it. They drink 1 serving of the cell power. They come back, and it will already be at 97 in 10 minutes.
Wow.
So that's how it does that, is what you said, is it breaks apart the water molecule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but cell power also helps the body do something that plants can't do. Plants can split up the H2O into hydrogen, oxygen, but it's only humans and most animals can do this, but with humans, it will also recombine. So molecular fusion means that it will take oxygen and hydrogen that exists in the body and combine it into water. And it'll do that a lot when you're dehydrated. When you're severely dehydrated, most people don't realize they're only a few hours away from being in the emergency room because the dehydration is so bad, and most of them are saying they don't. All those things we talked about that create acidity, coffee is dehydrating. 1 cup of coffee, it takes 3 cups of purified drinking water just to get back to 0.
Wow.
So you're saying I had 3 cups of water. So the other ones you just asked, Blake, you said oxygenation.
Yeah, nutrient absorption.
Okay.
And has to do with getting the cell open and...
Yeah, because of the electricity. So we don't ship any bottles of cell power that don't have a minimum of 450 millivolts when we test it with a voltmeter. Okay, that's one of the tests we go through. At 450 millivolts, that means that every drop of water in that 16-ounce glasses is at 450 millivolts, and each drop is able to energize up to 100 cells up to the 50 millivolt level that it needs for healing. No healing occurs in the body unless you hit 50 millivolts at the cell membrane. So it with the electricity, it opens the cell membrane so that it can accept nutrients, fuel, water, oxygen, and messenger hormones. And then it also allows the stored waste inside the cell to get out because the cell is no longer clamped down. So if not, the cell membrane is locked down, and you want cancer cells to lock down. That's the definition of remission. When cancer goes in remission, that means the cancer cell is locked down. It can no longer multiply. It can't move in the body. So there's, you're not getting cancer showing up in other places. So that's kind of what's happening there. It's electricity. That's what does all of the above. pH balancing, everything. It all has to do with providing electricity in a subtle, usable form that your body can use.
Wow. I've heard that it said that the cell, when it is deficient in nutrients, it will more readily take toxins.
Yes.
And then once the toxin's in the cell, now the cell won't let go of the toxin, even when you give it the nutrient, until you flood the body with nutrients. Hence, like mega-dose vitamin therapies and Max Gerson's cancer therapies, and etc.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And here's the interesting part is that right now with the, I guess there's a Dr. Cassie Means that has written a book that came out a few months ago, and she's talking about that the main reason, not just for obesity, but the number one disease as to how many billions, over 3 billion people on the planet, have what's called mitochondrial dysfunction. The mitochondria inside the cell can't convert glucose or fats into electrical energy, into the ATP. And so the really exciting thing for me is that a supplement that's made from fruits, vegetables, and vegetable protein that's been all dissolved down to submolecular size and has the electricity, which is the cell power, and also the super silica to a great degree, is that it's able to keep the cells energized with electricity until a person is able to make the lifestyle changes that will get rid of the mitochondrial dysfunction. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just like saying, I've got a little spare tire in my trunk and I'm going to put it on to get me to the place where they're going to fix my tire. That's kind of the same thing.
Right. Well, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is the body thrives in a balanced pH, and where there's optimal cellular energy production. And both of these cell power system, both of those beat pH balancing and optimizing cellular energy production. The nutrient absorption, if it's helping open the cell up, then I would assume that perhaps mega dose nutrition maybe doesn't have to be quite as a mega dose if the cell is able to receive nutrients easier and let go of toxins easier.
Yeah, so there's a lot of testing that's been done on cell power as a liquid over the last 75 years. I mean, just tons of testing, as well as millions of people that have taken it, and they all call up and say, guess what happened with me? And so we're sitting here cataloging it as fast as we can as the phone calls still keep coming in. But what's interesting is the Utah State University went ahead and tested the cell power because we were saying that it would help double the absorption, because we would have people that were taking 3,000 milligrams of a good vitamin C complex per day, and then they would take cell power on the same day they did their vitamin C, and it would boost it up to what we were estimating 6,000, which means they would get maybe a little bit of ascorbic acid flush, a little bit of loose bowels, because they had jumped from 3,000 to 6,000 in what was being absorbed in the cell. Well, Utah State University came back and they said, well, all of our testing shows that it's over 3 times. It's triple. It's not double. We can't release that to the public because, we have to be careful what we even say. When I'm doing seminars, I tell people, please don't video this and put it on YouTube. But it's the testing's been done. It's there. And the absorption of good nutrients from other supplements, from good chemical-free foods, organic foods, all those things really get boosted up.
Wow. Okay, so I know you probably need to get going, but I want to, do you have just a few minutes to review that super silica flyer?
Yes. I like.
Let's share my screen real quick, and then if you just want to go through it and maybe just explain what super silica is and how it contributes to these health issues?
Yes, I would love to. The flyer you have up on your screen says, "Are you missing your silica?" So there's a deficiency level. If you're at 0, that means you don't have any deficiency. You have all the silica you need. And if we go back 30 years ago, that was most of the country. We had, almost 90% of the country had all the silica that they needed. Now, deficiency level -1 means that is what the most people have, because as you start to lose silica and you start to go deficient, that is, it says it affects skin, hair, and nails. And the deficiency sign is having weak hair, weak nails. They break and they have cracks in them, and skin is just not looking very good at all. As you lose more silica, the body is creating these local deficiencies like the skin, hair, and nails, because in order to keep you alive, it will borrow silica from other areas of the body with every intention of replacing it to those areas. So, the skin, hair, and nails can not be doing well, but it's not life-threatening. At -2, you have lost more silica, and now your body is breaking down collagen and to get the silica out of it, just to use the silica where it's needed. That's more, life-threatening. At -3, it starts to affect bones and teeth. So you have sensitive teeth to hot and cold because the calcium layer starts getting thinner and
Silver layer.
Yeah, starts getting thinner and thinner. And with bones, you start to see the osteoporosis and all those things. For calcium to go back into the bone and stay there, the only way that happens is if you have enough silica to allow the body to do that. Otherwise, the calcium will go in for a few days and it comes right back out. There's no permanent solution to bone density, healthy bone density, without silica. -4 is that when it affects joints and connective tissues, is because silica is needed in large quantities for the connective tissue of the body. That's why gums, most people don't think that's connective tissue, but it's connecting bones. It's connecting the jawbone to the teeth, or the teeth to the upper bones in the mouth. So connective tissue, that's huge, but it will borrow it, and it keeps borrowing it. It's just like a lot of people, especially women, during first year of COVID and even a couple of years after, were coming into health food stores all across the country saying, "I'm losing my hair's falling out," and it's just never really happened before. Well, part of that is that the body, to fight the poisons that were involved with the COVID virus, you need silica to fight. So, that's, your body will use about 14,000 micrograms, and silica is always measured in micrograms. I know you'll see a lot of silica supplements where they're listed at milligrams, but that just means they don't understand silica at all. Micrograms is the official measurement for silica, but about 14,000 to 15,000 micrograms of silica every day your body uses just to protect you from environmental toxins and from the poisons that get trapped inside of your own cells. So at -5, this is where we found that there's no other brand except for super silica that can actually help with anything deeper than -4. And most of the time it's only -2, but at -5, that's kind of where we shine. With spider veins and varicose veins that show up in the body, that is definitely a silica deficiency. We know that because people will have all their spider veins clear up if they're doing four servings a day of super silica, which is the optimal minimal amount for adults. I mean, you can always go a lot higher than that, but at 4 servings a day, which is 12 drops in 16 ounces of purified water, is 1 serving. So you're doing the 48 drops spread out over 4 glasses of water. That is the fastest we've seen spider veins clear up has been a massage therapist in her 60s out in western Utah. She had it completely clear up in 13 days. Now, that's not normal. That was the fastest we've seen, but it doesn't take that long. And for varicose veins, it'll take maybe 4 or 5 months, but that's, that means the vein is actually repairing itself. But it couldn't do it before because it was missing that essential trace mineral silica. At -6, that's where arteries and intestines are no longer as flexible as they were. There's really no severe atherosclerosis with hardening the arteries. As long as you have enough silica, the body will keep using the silica to make the arteries not get hard. At -7, that's where you've got brain fog and aluminum accumulation, and that ties directly into Alzheimer's and dementia, short-term memory loss, all those things. -8 is where it starts to affect the heart. So inconsistent electrical flow, whether you have unexplained tachycardia or you're just
Arrhythmia?
arrhythmia, even
AFib?
AFib, all these names that we've come up for because no one wanted to say silica deficiency. So they started coming up with all these other names saying different parts of the electrical connections to the heart.
So, speaking of electrical connection, what is it down there in California's Silicon Valley? Because it's the tech capital of the world, because silicone is the best electrical conductor. So if your body is deficient in silica, is silica and silicone the same thing, or?
No, silicone is a variation of silicon, but silicon, what you're saying, Blake, is exactly right. And it's interesting because this chart you have goes to -10, but we actually had a ophthalmologist call us up a few years ago and said, I've got to tell you one more thing that super silica does. He was using with his patients super silica for those that had glaucoma with the really high pressure in the eyeball. And he said, the first person he used it with, she refused to sign the consent form to have surgery in her eye for the glaucoma pressure. And yet anything 19 and lower is considered pretty normal. And she was at 26. So he said that he went ahead and had her do not just 4 surgeries a day. She was up to like 8 or 9 surgeries a day. The most difficult thing was just drinking that quantity of water. But she did that. He said in 5 weeks, it went from 26 all the way down to 19 with just the silica therapy.
Wow.
So that's -11. It's not on your chart yet because it's been just a few years since that was reported. He wrote an article for the American Journal of Ophthalmology about what he discovered. And it turns out that for the macula of the eye, the cells of the macula, which is in the center of the retina, it's the part that covers the optic nerve connection. Everybody thinks of macular degeneration. Yeah, that's a big problem. But out of all the cells in the human body, the highest percentage of silica is in the macula cells. Because you were talking about Silicon Valley and all the computer connections and the personal devices, the phones, everything, everything that is electronics has silicon in it. A lot of it. Okay. Well, it turns out that they discovered that the solar panels you can put on your roof to power your house, they've tried all different kinds of minerals and toxic things. And and they finally found out that there's nothing that is more powerful than silicon. Wow. So the same thing that would help the macula of the eye so that you get as much light coming into the eyeball and that you can see properly, they found out also accumulates the most light when the sun is shining on your panels.
Wow.
So there's a lot of that. We got up to what, -8? I've had people, when it comes to the heart arrhythmias, that were told that we need to put a pacemaker in your chest. And they said, okay, well, just give me a week. And they're like, no, we need to rush you in right now and do that. Well, they waited a week and somebody told them about the super silica. They started taking it a week later. When they went in, they go, well, you have textbook perfect heart rhythms. And so they didn't have to have that procedure at that time. Wow. So, -9 is that when your body actually starts borrowing silica out of every cell, then you end up with lower cellular function. And a lot of that is just total exhaustion. People that I talk to that say, I'm only able to get out of bed for 1 hour and then I have to be in my bed for 23 hours. Just total exhaustion. And then minus 10 is that all of the so-called autoimmune disorders, and this was a huge breakthrough. I was working in the project where these 10 levels were discovered, and in the order in which the body borrows it, right? It's not going to borrow it from your immune system,
Right.
or from really it's not the immune system problem. The autoimmune response is that your cells are no longer telegraphing your DNA code to the immune system. So when it comes up and it sees one of your cells, since it's not getting the message that it's your DNA, it attacks it, because that's what the immune system's supposed to do. It's supposed to attack every cell that's in your body that's not you.
Right.
And so with that means we've seen people that get on the 4 servings of silica per day, which, has 10 times the absorption super silica than any other liquid silica supplement. What will happen is that they start seeing that the symptoms disappear in about 4 or 5 months for lupus or Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis. Again, it's not a supplement curing anything. It's a supplement restoring your body back to the level it was.
Right.
Hopefully, we were all born with the right amount of silica. Even if our mother, when we were in the womb, didn't eat enough silica-rich foods like brown rice and raw cabbage coleslaw and all the things that have higher amounts of silica, it was the fact that it would start pulling silica from long hair. So we know in the scriptures, it would, in the New Testament, it really encourages women to have long hair, not cut their hair short. Part of that has to do with the reproductive process, that extra emergency supplies of silica are stored in hair. So if you have long hair, your body will actually suck it right through the hair shaft into the follicle and into the bloodstream when an emergency of lack of silica occurs.
Oh, wow. That's really...
So, and I hate to say this, about anybody. I guess I'm going to mention Bruce Willis, just because for years in all my classes, I kept saying, because of that fact, you've got to be really careful when you just shave your head completely. And my son did that for a while. For men, they shave their hair completely. If you don't have silica within a 1/4 inch of the brain, which is where it is on your scalp, on your head, then, you're going to end up with potentially really serious brain problems. And of course, that's just come to the news in the past few months, that Bruce Willis has these really severe brain problems. We have to, luckily most men don't shave the hair in their underarm area, but women do. And that was not a thing in the United States until after World War I. All the soldiers came back from Europe and said, well, I kind of like the way the French women were shaving under their arms. So, the American women, not to be outdone, so well, I can do that. And pretty soon it just spread. And with no hair there, that's where breast cancer started to take off, because the silica was able to take care of so many toxins in the breast tissue. That's why it's rare for a man to have breast cancer, but there is such a thing as male breast cancer. And it's just really rare, but if it happens, it's a lot more fatal than female breast cancer.
Oh, wow. That's...
So, one place I go and talk about this is in southern Indiana, and most of the women there don't shave under their arms, so they're like, yay, good for us. But your body puts extra hair wherever you don't need it. Because you need silica for the eyes, for the retina, for the macula, we have eyebrows and eyelashes, because it's so close to the eye. It's a lot closer to the eye than trying to get the silica from the hair on our head.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Well, guys, I guess if your wife stops shaving her armpits because of the show, my apologies in advance.
Well, and super silica is fine. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to stop sharing our pits. I said, well, that's why we have super silica. And we have a super silica topical spray.
Hmm.
Okay. It's part of our natural cosmetic line. It means that you can actually spray your bare underarms with the silica, and it's there instead of using antiperspirants with aluminum in it, because the body will use aluminum as a temporary substitute anytime it can't get the silica.
Oh, wow. I read about that before the show, and that's really interesting. It seems like also aluminum is very abundant in our environment today, in all the food packaging and everywhere you go. And so you're not having a shortage of exposure to aluminum. So if you're deficient in silica, then your body's going to readily take that in, use it as a counterfeit or a temporary solution, but then it's going to lead to long-term issues.
Yeah, exactly. So get silica. And I tell people, even though you're taking super silica, it's good to, like with anything, is to start having good lifestyle changes, like adding more silica-rich foods into your diet. I mean, that's part of what, when I talked about how much silica is in cabbage, that's what kept Europe from dying out after World War II. They were so low on food supplies, but they would have the German sauerkraut, and pretty soon every country had their own version of it. It was fermented cabbage, and it had protein, which they desperately needed, and it had silica to keep them from dying from all the poisons left behind after the war.
Wow.
Same thing in South Korea. Kimchi is I know about kimchi. Oh, I love that. And I go, my daughters love kimchi. And I go, well, it was the same thing, is that South Korea was so poor that they didn't have protein sources. They needed the silica just to keep them alive.
Wow. And so in conjunction, now this is fascinating because heavy metals is something we're all dealing with, accumulation in the cells and in the body tissues. And it sounds like silica may be a really good way to help the body detox heavy metals, such as
it starts with the heavy. It helps start the heavy metal detox process. It doesn't get rid of all of it, but it does with the aluminum. So it will actually, if you have enough silica, which means, make sure you're taking it 7 days a week, that you're increasing the silica levels in your body, but it will push out the aluminum that's been, used as the substitute, and then it blocks it from coming back in. So that's really what it comes down to, is when people are really concerned about poisons and toxins in their life. I hate to go in and tell them how many thousands of poisons and toxins they're exposed to every single day. And they go, oh, no, not me. I'm protecting myself. I say, good. You probably cut it down from 10,000 different toxins a day to 5,000. But, they'll say, well, I just wish I could move to a tropical island somewhere that's not polluted. Well, it's been about 30 years since there hasn't been any spot on the planet that is not polluted. So sorry about the plans to move out to that tropical island. But what you don't have to do is run away from it. If you have enough of all of the good minerals, let's say that you have enough selenium, then arsenic, which comes from mainly from tap water, but there's a little bit of arsenic in certain types of rice. But arsenic will not stay in the body. And what arsenic does is that it creates hearing loss. So if you have somebody that in your family and wearing a hearing aid, if you can get enough selenium, and you can't do huge quantities, you can't really megadose selenium, but you can consistently get it in your body, it will block arsenic. Okay, so it's that way for everything. It turns out that zinc and silver, so the colloidal silver and zinc, will block cadmium. And cadmium is the worst pollutant that we're exposed to. The average adult in the United States, Blake, has 15 pounds of cadmium in their body. And the only safe level is 0 milligrams. So if you have enough of the silver and the zinc, if you're taking them both at the same time, it will really push and cut down on your cadmium. I had 15 pounds of cadmium about 10 years ago, and I went through a detox process with a person who's, I guess, kind of world famous for doing that. It was expensive, but I got down to where I had 0 cadmium in my body, 0 mercury, 0 arsenic, 0 nickel, 0 tin. Tin is not plentiful like aluminum, but it's still a big problem.
Wow. Well, I want to talk for another hour, but we probably better wrap it up. But it sounds like cell power can really have a lot of benefits, but the pH balancing, which is vital, and then the opening the cell up in optimizing cellular health, and then the silica can play a role also in the cellular health. So it sounds like they kind of work together in a lot of ways for cellular health and for other methods. Could you maybe just in closing talk about how you would recommend dosing these things and how do I apply that in my life? And also just so the viewers know, we do have all the Positive Power nutrition products at Nature's Pantry. And so you can find those here. You can find those online. But if you're going to buy online, buy direct from Positive Power Nutrition, because there's a lot of counterfeits going on in the online world today. But here at Nature's Pantry in these hand, you can also.
Blake, if somebody calls and they say we want to buy directly from us, we'll refer them right back to you, first of all, because they're expecting they're going to get some kind of a discount, and we don't do that as a manufacturer. And so I say, if you want to get the best deal, go to Nature's Pantry, talk to Blake. If you're going to buy 6 bottles of super silica, I'm sure he'll give you some kind of a deal, some kind of a discount. So that's what we try to do. But, the biggest reason that we sell to anybody is that for the stores across the country that have gone out of business, which is like over 200 independent health food stores are no longer there from COVID till now. But then we'll make sure they can get them if we can't refer them. Do you ship out to people if they call and they want it shipped?
We can, yes. Mm-hmm. And we have online ordering as well.
Okay, well then I can refer even more people over to you. So I'm sorry, what was your question you said before?
Yeah, sorry. And then I went on a whole commentary. So dosing, if I wanted to do both cell power and super silica, how was the best way to go about that?
Well, I'm a big fan of keeping life simple. So if you take them both in the same day, and I have a lot of friends that do, you've got to find a way so that it doesn't overwhelm you, because the ideal number of servings for an adult for super silica is 4. So that's 64 ounces of purified or distilled water just to get the 4 of super silica in. And then that 6 servings is the ideal amount for the cell power. So that means you're up to doing like over 1.25 gallons of water each day. And I just tell people, and it's too confusing. So here's what I've been doing. And you can do any of these things, but I'm going to give you the dosing things that work.
Okay.
If you are taking both super silica and cell power, I recommend that you alternate days. And I'll tell you why that works, is that both products will stay active in your body for 48 hours. So on the odd days of the month, like today, I take cell power, all day long. It's going to take me almost all day to get the 6 servings in. And then on the even days, like tomorrow, I'll be doing 4 servings of super silica. So that works. I have a friend who has a radio show in Oklahoma City, and he's been doing this for almost 20 years. And he goes, well, it works for me. I said, fine. I'm not going to tell you to change if it works. He does cell power all morning until lunchtime, and then he does super silica all afternoon. So he goes, it's just so much a habit, so much a part of his life. But those are the ideal amounts for an adult. Now, for children with cell power, it's 1 drop for every 2 years of age. So that means, a drop for a 2-year-old. If I had a friend that said, I've got a 7-year-old son that has asthma. Well, it turns out that the way that cell power powers up the body, we're talking about people putting away their inhaler within just 1 week of doing, so here's a 7-year-old boy that doesn't have to use an inhaler, take to school, doesn't have asthma symptoms 1 week after he started, but he was doing 4 drops, I guess, for 7-year-old
Wow.
per day. And you can go all the way down to babies. They don't need it as much, but a lot of times doctors will say, okay, what can I do for a 6-month-old? I said, well, that means you're going to put 1 drop in a glass of water and then use 1/4 of that. So they're getting 1/4 of a drop for a 6-month-old. So that's the dosage. For super silica, it's 12 drops in its own water. You don't want to put the cell power and super silica together unless you're doing a completely different program. But if you want the benefits of both products, you put them in their own water. So 12 drops in a 16-ounce glass of purified or distilled water. If you're using spring water or anything else that's not reverse osmosis, if you use spring water, you're going to have to use twice as many drops as it says on the label.
What about filtered water?
Filtered water, almost twice as many drops. I see you have the Mountain Valley spring water there.
Yeah.
That's bottle, which is wonderful.
I've been refilling it with filtered water. Our filters are they're the last wave or new wave Enviro filters, so they're pretty good.
That might do it. I tell people, if you're going to do something like that, make sure that you invest in a $50 TDS meter. You can get that online. It used to be only for scientists. Now anybody can get them. But it's a TDS meter, meaning it's measuring total dissolved solids. So if you have reverse osmosis water that you buy in a 1-gallon like milk jug, where's the safe plastic? It's not the transparent, but it's the one that looks like a little bit milky plastic. If you have it in there and you're buying a gallon, which is like $1 or $2 for a gallon, it will say filtered by reverse osmosis. We have one that we get from the Kroger stores, which are almost the whole country now has that, and has a blue label. But when we test it, it's 1 part per million total dissolved solids. That means it's fluoride free, which is almost impossible to get fluoride out of tap water. So it's fluoride free, it's chlorine free, it's pharmaceutical free, doesn't have any garbage in it. And then people say, oh, but I'm not getting the minerals. I said, hey, go to your health food store and buy, concentrates or another good brand of minerals, and you can put the liquid minerals right in the water. Yep. But the minerals that are in your spring water or tap water is like
organic.
And it's garbage minerals. I mean, some of it's concrete.
Your body can't handle it. Your body does well with organic minerals, like what actually plants turn inorganic minerals into organic minerals. So when you're eating plants, you're getting organic. But when you're just getting the mineral, not in a food, it's your body's not handling it. And a lot of us have too much buildup of inorganic minerals in the body.
Yeah. When we go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to look into those TDS. Okay, and I will, so I'm going to put together, when I publish this show, I'm going to put together a flyer with all the pertinent information. I'm also going to get all the wonderful flyers that you guys provided me. So I'm going to provide those for my customers. I will also put all those things on the web page where this show is published. So we'll have details on, your recommendations for how to take it. And all the details we shared today will be summarized there as well as the recording of the show. So I'll share that with you as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
And I just want to thank you so much for taking your time today to share this wonderful information, beautiful insights. I was expecting to be very informed today, but it was well beyond my expectations. So appreciate all you do, and God bless your work, and keep fighting the good fight. We're really thankful for you.
Thank you, Blake. You as well. I just love the whole tone of your show. So it's been a wonderful experience.
Thank you. And thank you to all who have tuned in, and we love you all. God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The information provided in this show is intended for your general knowledge only and is not medical advice. If you have or suspect you have a specific medical condition or disease, please consult your healthcare provider. If your provider has a strong understanding of nutrition and holistic health, even better. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nature's Pantry.